Have you ever felt like you wanted to make a huge change in your life, but just the thought of it was, well, completely overwhelming? Today we're going to look at this a little differently. We're going to start thinking like an architect, because building a better life, it's not about one giant leap. It's about having a blueprint and then laying one brick, one tiny habit, perfectly, day after day. Does this sound at all familiar? That feeling of being totally stuck, just running on fumes, where your days are dictated by endless scrolling and just reacting to the world instead of, actually forging your own path? That feeling of burnout, that's our ground zero. That's the starting point for our blueprint. And today, we're going to deconstruct that feeling and design a way out.
So here's the absolute key to all of this. That profound transformation we're all looking for, it doesn't come from some massive, sudden overhaul. Honestly, that's just a recipe for more burnout. Real, lasting change comes from the architecture of our daily habits, those small, almost invisible actions that we take every single day.
Okay, so every great structure has to start with a solid foundation, right? So before we can even think about building, we need to understand our core materials, which is the psychology behind our habits. It's time to crack the code of why we do what we do.
So what's the actual science behind our automatic behaviors? Well, it boils down to something called the habit loop, a concept from the author Charles Duhigg. It's this simple, three-step neurological cycle that pretty much runs on autopilot and governs everything from brushing your teeth to how you react to stress.
Let's break it down real quick. First, you've got the cue. That's the trigger. It could be a time of day, a place, even an emotion. Next is the routine. That's the action itself, the habit. And finally, there's the reward, that little hit of satisfaction that tells your brain, hey, that was good, let's do that again. Understanding this loop is the absolute key to changing any habit you have.
And this gets at such a common misconception. We think we just need more willpower to change. But willpower is a finite resource. It's like a muscle that gets tired. So instead of trying to fight your urges all day long, the much smarter move is to just re-engineer the habit loop itself.
Think of this as the mental operating system you need for any kind of change. If you're running on a fixed mindset, any setback feels like a final verdict, like proof that you can't do it. But with a growth mindset, a setback isn't failure, it's just data. It's feedback telling you, okay, that didn't work, let's try a new strategy. To build new habits, you first have to believe that you can grow.
Okay, so if understanding our habits is the foundation, what's the framework that holds the whole thing together? Well, that's our mindset. And specifically, it's about building this unstoppable sense of discipline for when things inevitably get tough.
Let me ask you something. When you hear the word discipline, what comes to mind? For a lot of us, it sounds like punishment, right? Restriction. But what if we completely reframe that? What if discipline isn't about restriction at all, but is actually the highest form of self-respect? What if it's simply honoring the promises you make to your future self?
I love this definition because it just cuts right to the chase. It's not about waiting until you feel motivated. Come on, we all know motivation is fleeting. Discipline is about showing up anyway. It's the engine that bridges that gap between where you are right now and where you want to be.
And here is some powerful, powerful fuel for that engine. This comes from someone who totally turned their life around, and they used the fear of stagnation, that fear of looking back in 20 years and seeing zero progress, as their ultimate motivator. What would happen if the pain of staying the same became greater than the pain of changing?
That intense desire to avoid being mediocre, it fuels what you might call a warrior mindset. Now, this isn't about being aggressive or loud or anything like that. It's about quiet, consistent, intentional action. It's about rising each day on your own terms before the world has a chance to tell you who to be.
All right, so let's get really practical. How do we actually apply all this? Well, it starts with the very first hour of your day. If you can win the morning, you basically set the trajectory for the entire day. So we're going to look at 3 simple but incredibly powerful habits.
First up, let's tackle the most common trap of the modern world. You know what I'm talking about. The phone.
Seriously, don't let your inbox or your social feed dictate your mood first thing in the morning. By just delaying screen time for 30 minutes, just 30 minutes, you give your brain space to wake up with intention, not with anxiety.
You get to set the tone for the day, not some random notification.
Second, an unbelievably simple but effective swap.
Before you reach for that coffee, reach for a glass of water. Your body is super dehydrated after sleeping all night. Hydrating first thing kickstarts your metabolism and helps clear out that morning brain fog. Think of coffee as a treat, not as your life support system.
And third, let's create some crystal clarity for the day ahead.
Instead of staring at a massive to-do list and feeling overwhelmed, choose just one priority. By tackling your most important task first, some people call this eating the frog, you generate this powerful sense of accomplishment that fuels you for hours. And it just crushes that anxiety before it even has a chance to start.
Now, here's a little secret. A successful morning routine actually begins the night before. Mastering your evening is all about setting up your future self for success. It's about closing out the day with a sense of peace and preparation.
Think of it as a simple shutdown ritual. First, prepare. Just take 5 minutes to lay out your outfit or write tomorrow's to-do list. This eliminates so much decision fatigue in the morning. Second, transition. Use a screen-free walk or listen to some music to signal to your brain that the workday is officially over. And third, protect. Implement a really simple rule like no complaining after 9 p.m. It's amazing how this protects your mindset and helps you get restorative sleep.
So we've laid the foundation, we've built the framework, and we've looked at the practical application. But what's the secret that makes this entire structure actually stand tall? It's not intensity, it's consistency. And this, right here, is the ultimate payoff. Each successful morning is a small win, that's it. But these small wins, they compound. Day after day, brick by brick, the accumulation of all these quiet, consistent efforts is what builds an extraordinary life. And hey, remember, the goal is progress, not perfection.
So in the end, transformation isn't some massive demolition project. It's quiet architecture. It starts with the smallest decision to just lay one perfect brick. So, what's your first brick going to be? What is the one tiny habit that you're going to start tomorrow?